What's the most infuriating case of double standards you've come across? For purposes of this story, I have two little brothers. They do not share mothers. We were eating breakfast with the mother of one of them. The other one is a picky eater. He has issues with texture, but he never complains. Just powers through as best he can. She got up to get coffee, and they traded plates. Her BO son had almost cleaned his, and her stepson had eaten about half before the trade. Then they both got up and took their plates to her like they'd finished, and she accepted them both as done. You see, when her BO son says he's full, she believes him. When her stepson says he's full, she doesn't. So they made it look like the step had eaten more, because they knew the BO's plate would be accepted in any condition. I never told them that I know they did this, and probably have for a while, but I love that they figured a way around her double standards. My high school English teacher would hear something even remotely phone-like and explode, "Whose phone is that?" If no one answered right away, A would pace the desks, and if anyone acted suspicious, she would have them empty their pockets, bags, etc. on the desk. If there was a phone, she confiscated it. If there were any red notifications, she would read them aloud. But every now and again, she would do her whole explosion, then glance down and giggle and say, "Oh, it's my phone," and then text away. Also, she was a terrible English teacher. Middle-aged woman I used to work with was always complaining about her son-in-law, and one day she was complaining to me and saying how he doesn't clean her daughter's car off when it snows, and that is something the man should be doing. And I responded with, "Sure, but how would you feel if you said the same thing about dishes and being something the woman should do?" She paused and then said she never thought of it that way, lol. A girl I dated in high school would often vent to me about her friends' boyfriends doing the same things she would do to me. For example, we'd see each other every weekend. She wanted to see me more often, but we lived 40 minutes from each other. Gas was expensive, I was broke, and I had homework and extracurriculars, so I was busy during the week. She got mad and angrily told me to let her know when I cared enough to pencil her into my calendar. Not too much later, she was on the phone with me, telling me how her friend's boyfriend said the same thing to her friend, and what a bad person he was for it. When I called her out, she just made up some crap about how our situation was different. Me and a classmate wrote the same answer with different wordings in a test. My classmate got the answer marked wrong. Luckily, because I'm her favorite, I don't enjoy it, I was able to negotiate with her, and she changed the mark. Although it's still infuriating that it actually happened in the first place, and yes, she didn't like him at the time. My personal experience: I was about 8 months pregnant. My cousin's girlfriend was about 7 months pregnant. We were all at my aunt's house. My cousin's GF, let's call her Christy, had a reputation of being not very bright, but also very arrogant. She insisted that it was perfectly fine to smoke during her pregnancy because the baby's lungs were not developed yet. Wow, just wow. No matter what evidence my aunt showed Christy, she stuck with her stubborn, selfish belief. She smoked cigarettes up until 6 months pregnant and smoked pot from a street drug dealer up until the car ride to the hospital to deliver. She also drank 2 alcoholic beverages a day. We all suspected possibly more. We were all appalled, but there was nothing we could do to stop her. I had not said one thing to her about it because it just wasn't my place to. My aunt had said enough. On the other hand, I completely gave up alcohol. I never smoked. All coffee, caffeine, getting my hair and nails done, sushi, and everything that my midwife said could possibly cause harm to the unborn baby. I even switched to a natural deodorant. Back to my aunt's house. My aunt had come back from a store with subhojes, fresh deli meats, and cheese. We all started making ourselves subs, except for Christy, who was busy smoking a blunt in the bedroom. As I was eating my turkey sandwich, Christy comes out from the bedroom, high as a kite, looks at me dead seriously, and says, "You're not supposed to be eating that. Deli meat is unsafe for the baby." It took every ounce of energy in my body to not hurl myself screaming in her face. When I was a sophomore, a group of freshman girls all decided to go around racking guys because they thought the reactions were hysterical. I made it very clear, if any of them did that to me, I would slap them. Lo and behold, after several other guys were hit and nothing done, One of them surprised me in the hallway and racked me. I promptly slapped her across the face and was sent to the principal's office by a female teacher who witnessed the whole thing. Thankfully, the principal was more understanding and just sent me back to class. Still, whole thing pisses me off over a decade later. And when I say racking, I mean slapping or otherwise hitting someone in the testicles for no other purpose than to cause pain. Probably known under many different phrases or names, but that is what we know it as where I grew up in Texas. Also sack tap, but racking was the phrase that first came to mind. When we bought our house, my wife set up all the utilities. I'm on the spectrum. I really hate dealing with that stuff. Bills, money. I go to work and earn the money. She does the budgeting and makes sure everything gets paid. It's crazy to me how often a company will have to have me get on the phone to make a change or whatever on an account that she set up. I'm the husband, so I must be in charge of the finances. My mom got upset at me for something unreasonable. She called me and was instantly shouting over the phone. I was angry in return, and both my parents were upset that I could possibly be upset with them because they do everything I could ask for, including the basic requirements to raise a child, not including any sort of emotional support of course, and providing numerous mental health problems. The next day, my dad was talking to me and explained she was just upset and that if you start a conversation angry and fighty, then the other person will be defensive reactively, meaning I was instantly angry with her and she was just being defensive. I took this as an opportunity to prove I wasn't in the wrong at all. I explained to him that he's right, but when I picked up the phone, she was instantly shouting. So I reacted defensively. So isn't it wrong how she acted? He said something along the lines of, well, but she's your mom, his go-to excuse for her, as if that clears her of all wrongdoings. Someone at work had a crush on me because he thinks I'm pretty. Everyone is supportive of him, and they even encouraged him to court me. When I told them I didn't like him because he's not that attractive, they got upset with me. They are telling me to give him a chance and that I should not decide on liking someone based on looks. How come I was the only one getting the heat when both of our feelings are just based on each other's looks? I used to work at a really progressive company with lots of different personalities, which was very good for me. I might add, I'm a straight white guy and had a coworker who was gay. He was a jerk to everyone, but people found him hilarious, seemingly because he was gay, so they let the straight up mean things he would say and do slip by. For example, he would say things like, well, of course you messed that up, you're a man. Or why would I ask you, a man, to handle this for me? No thanks. Before I realized that he was just a mean guy, I would try to join in the banter when he would take a shot at me and fire one back at him. In jest, he reported me to my manager saying that I was being offensive to him, and I got reprimanded. After 2 to 3 instances of him not being able to take a joke, I realized that I should just literally never talk to him unless it is 100% work related. But the double standard of him being able to say anything because no one at the progressive company wants to reprimand the gay guy while the straight guy can't say those things really bothered me. Being a single parent, I was a single dad for a long time. Single mom equals normal, or maybe a deadbeat dad somewhere, or maybe a long list of not her fault. Single dad equals WTF. How can you take her kids from her? He must have done something to her, or she just has to be dead right, because no way a man would have his kids. I literally had one of my kids' teachers say this to me during parent-teacher conferences. No background, no idea what my situation was, just assumed I'm a bad person. Stared right at me with a judgmental smirk on her face. When I rejoined the dating scene, I had women over and over stop messaging or calling when they found out I had custody of my kid. I'm a white guy with a black friend, both in the military years ago. One night at work, he and I are busting each other's chops. My last name is fairly Italian sounding, so he jokingly says he's gonna start calling me John Rigatoni. Everyone at work laughs out loud at this, including me. So I replied, fine, I'm gonna call you Craig Chidlin. My buddy was cracking up, but my supervisor pulled me outside and told me I can't say that. I asked why it was okay that he laughed at rigatoni. He said because it's different. Men being looked down on for being emotionally vulnerable. I've only ever dated one woman who was genuinely fine with me crying. The rest either got super distant when that happened, got mad, or made fun of it. Meanwhile, with every one of my exes, except, ironically, the one who was fine with male sadness, I had to coax them through multiple stress cries and even a breakdown or two. Men shouldn't have to pay a therapist just to have someone listen to them non-judgmentally. Does anyone have a link to the story of a guy whose child almost got kidnapped? It was a story where a man was waiting for his wife outside a store with their child in a stroller. A woman just walks up, screams that he's kidnapping her child, grabs the stroller, and calmly walks off. The man got tackled and beat by everyone there, to the point of having broken ribs, and all the while he was screaming that the baby was his and she was the kidnapper. It was only stopped because the wife came out and confronted the woman, who just calmly let go of the stroller and walked off without anyone stopping her. When the police got there, the husband was reprimanded for looking suspicious.